You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hat.
Hey everyone, this is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
Yeah, today we are discussing a really cool Apple TV series called Shrinking, which we hope you have caught this, or if not, you will be hearing spoilers. I still think it's worth it to go and watch it, even if you do hear some of these, because that ruins the watching of it.
Well, I guess if we give some big cliffhangers or something, otherwise it's...
Yeah, and I don't think we are
No.
going to. We're just going to be talking about the characters and what makes it work and the mental health themes and stuff like that. But overall, I thought this was a great show. It was just really funny and, of course, directly related to mental health.
Yeah.
So, because it's a cast of psychotherapists. And they're also the actors. It's a pretty stellar cast. Jason Segel, Harrison Ford. He's still looking nice at 82. Jessica Williams and Krista Miller plays Liz.
Yeah.
Miller.
You might remember her from Drew Carey or Scrubs.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Then, what was that? Wendy Malick. What was she in?
She was in a lot. She was in Frasier.
Oh, yeah.
She plays Marty's girlfriend. And she was in Young Sheldon. She's done a lot of stuff.
Just Shoot Me, I think, is where everybody knew her from.
Yes.
But I was very impressed with the cast.
Me too. They had great chemistry. They're so witty. They all click together so nicely. I mean, it really was, the casting was superb. I know we're not like movie critics, but this is like
Cisco,
whatever. We're still gonna say it.
Cisco and Ebert here.
Dos Santos and Gray.
Yes.
But yeah, so just to kind of give an overview of what this is about, looking at the lives of some psychotherapists, some of the patients that interact within their lives and how they handle them, maybe some boundary issues, but also in showing the humanity behind therapists and seeing that real life may be happening and sometimes it comes out messily.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's interesting too, because you always hear, I'm sure people listening are like, oh, CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. What is that? So it's kind of interesting that that's what the focus is too, because Paul's written a book and he's the expert in it. And it seems like that's what most of them, their focus seems to be for their therapy.
Yeah, which I find, that's a pretty common one. That's like a gold standard, I think, for a lot of psychotherapists. But yeah, they do go into it. They do show some of their sessions and we get to meet some of the patients they have, clients, whatever you want to term that as. And there is some interactions and between, Jimmy, the main character played by Jason Segel, is dealing with the death of his wife. It was like a sudden death. She was killed in a car accident. He is not dealing with it. He is in his personal life. There's an opening scene where he's just with some young ladies and engaging in some promiscuous stuff, maybe some substances, and his daughter, who's like 16 at the time, around that age, is kind of dealing with this on her own because he can't manage these feelings and she's left alone to manage the death of her mother. We soon learn that a neighbor who's very maternal-like, very, very hilarious, Krista Miller, Liz, takes over as a maternal figure towards Alice. Then we slowly start to see that Jimmy is in his sessions maybe working out some of his grief. Inappropriately, maybe some, projecting some of this stuff in session. He's kind of making very inappropriate boundary violations, getting himself involved, way too over involved, trying to guide clients and say like he knows what's best for them. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too. It's funny too because in the break room, whatever, the three of them, Paul, Gabby, and Jimmy are just talking. And Jimmy's like, "Do you ever just want to just tell your clients this or that, or your patients this or that?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we can't. It's not our job to say it." And then just a patient or two later, he ends up telling them, like, "Okay, why are you with this person? Yeah, break up with him."
We should never really give directives. We're more about guidance, but he is very much taking in his own values, his own issues, and kind of redirecting them back at these clients. And with one client in particular, it ends up having a pretty damaging effect, which is, from a lot of people watching it, maybe if you're not a therapist might be like, I don't see the issue, but it is a huge ethical issue
Yeah.
with what happens. But I think it's all made to just be kind of funny and
Yeah.
it's not, so when we're watching it, we're kind of like, no, but kind of like some of it's, a lot of this is made to be funny too. But yeah, we see Jimmy struggling with dealing with the grief and with compassion fatigue, right? He's really kind of, can't hold space for his clients, which you need because he is grieving, but he's not managing it. So it's kind of seeping out from somewhere and leaking into his sessions.
Yeah. And he's using probably the way that he's really more involved in his client's life as a really big distraction from grieving or being present in his own life or his own pain.
Yeah. And his advice is very tainted by saying like, I know what will fix it because he wants to probably fix his own grief or avoid his own grief and try and fix something. And within the office, Jimmy also has Dr. Paul, played by Harrison Ford, as like kind of a mentor figure to him. He's very wise, been in the practice. He owns the practice, right?
I think so.
Is he the
I think
owner?
I think he's the owner.
Or it's Jimmy and Dr. Paul. I think
maybe. Is it?
They're co-owners.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but Paul takes on like, he kind of will ground him and be like, hey, look at this. You shouldn't be doing this. He's kind of taking this like fatherly, paternal mentor role of like, you need to, not invite your clients to live with you, and which is something that Jimmy does. And, kind of this type of stuff. And we also see that sometimes Jimmy's actions, although are probably ethically not the greatest, they end up kind of working, and it shows how much he cares and how much he does invest.
Yeah, I mean, especially with his client Sean, because at first you're like, oh my gosh, he's bringing Sean to fight people, and then Sean's just still really, he's just angry. He's still angry. He doesn't have a relationship. It's like nothing is working. He doesn't have a relationship with his family. He's fighting. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a place to live. And then Jimmy's has him move in, and then slowly it seems like Sean starts realizing like, oh, I have a little community here, even though it's my therapist and his friends and his family, but it does work. He starts a business. He ends up having a romantic relationship, not saying that everyone should move in with their therapist, but in this instance, it did work.
It did. And it made me like so uncomfortable watching that and being like, ugh, no, and like, I don't think anybody should do that. But that's the weird thing is that, although I know you and I would never do that because we would, if that got reported, we could lose our license. But in TV land, it all works out.
Right.
So it's fine. So, and it's fun,
Yeah. Again, it's pretend. Yeah. This is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But you can see Jimmy's heart. He really does care. He really does have a lot of compassion.
Yeah,
he really does want to make things work.
He would be, I think if it was real life, I think he would probably be the therapist you would look forward to having each week. You wouldn't see that on your calendar and be like, ugh, do I have to go to my therapist, or do I have, do I have to schedule that, or.
Yeah, like he's someone that really will, kind of confront you, but will also guide you. And well, I mean, I maybe that depends on like your style, but I could definitely see that with Jimmy. Yeah, I also the other therapist at this practice who we come to know is Gabby. She is hilarious. I love her,
and she has the best style.
She does, and she's so like her humor is on point. I love just her personality. She's very bright. She's very outgoing. It's reflected in her bright outfits. I just love. I love seeing what she's wearing in each episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. Her style of therapy is also shown, and she's very open and compassionate. Yeah, I think gently confronting as needed, maybe a little bit more stern.
Yeah.
As, kind of what calls for at times as well. She's just very open and transparent, but fun, and, I think she's someone people would definitely look forward to.
And she's probably more a little humanistic or something, different approach. She's probably not just doing cognitive behavioral.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Like, I don't necessarily, I think to stick to just cognitive behavioral therapy would probably be kind of tough. I think you probably have to combine some other elements like here and there in therapy, but that's just my opinion, unless it's like a short-term therapy kind of thing.
Which I was wondering too, because Paul says he's like Mr. Cognitive Behavioral, but then he had that one client that he saw for 20 years. So I was like, how is that cognitive behavioral? That doesn't, it doesn't add, it doesn't make sense. You wouldn't see someone for 20 years.
That's where I think there's kind of a little bit of the TV magic kind of mixed in there, and he probably does.
I mean, you could see clients for 20 years, but hopefully not for, like hopefully there's other stuff going on besides just like, let's help you from this, stop this behavior or find it, replacement behavior.
Yeah, and I mean, he could have just approached a lot of things with that, but I would think after 20 years that would kind of get redundant,
Yeah.
and like because but I don't know, maybe he has like expansion on like it seems like he really researches that area. He's really well versed in
Yeah.
it. But, again, it's the TV land of it all,
Mhm.
so but that is an interesting point though to think about. Yeah, and so, there's kind of all these characters where that come to play that they just have phenomenal interactions, dynamics, chemistry. There's so much humor to it.
Mhm.
I know you said you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I think there are for sure some things that, like we talked about are kind of in mental health that we're like, okay, this is not something you would really do, but, and just knowing it's a show or whatever, like kind of like, I'm sure if doctors watched like, Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
they might be like, yeah, no, like it's not going to be fully accurate. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't really want to watch a fully accurate show because I want to kind of get away from
Yeah.
therapy on my off time. I want to laugh and just kind
Mhm.
of, have a good time about it. But there definitely is a lot of dynamics between the Jimmy and Alice, the father-daughter relationship and how that heals. And Jimmy's going through his own grief
Mhm.
and it kind of hits him in different stages. Alice kind of feels she is left alone and Liz, the neighbor, takes over to
Mhm.
help her. And then Jimmy starts to realize, oh, I can do this. Alice kind of resists because she's like, you weren't there for me.
Yeah.
There's anger there, understandably. And then they kind of work it out. It's just not linear. A lot of these things are not linear. And I think that is something that's very accurate,
Mhm.
and how relationships and grief can come in spurts and phases and through different interactions, different things that happen, different phases in your life. And I thought that was a really cool way to depict that on so many levels for all the characters. They really were going through a lot of their own stuff.
Right.
And, you see, like you said, Sean had an amazing transformation, even though Jimmy was maybe Jimmying and, kind of just doing his
Yeah.
own stuff. You'd get that if you watch that, people.
It's a
But
term
hopefully you
Jimmy
have.
wants to wants everyone to use.
He's trying to make it kind of like, what is it from Mean Girls? Like fetch. Quit
Yeah.
trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's Jimmying. Oh, and there's Brian, the character Brian, who was a friend of Tia's, the mom that passed away,
Mhm.
Alice's mom and Jimmy's wife. And he's kind of part of the friend group. He brings so much comedy as well
Mhm.
to the piece.
Yeah.
And he's just he's got his own kind of struggles with adopting a child and being a father and
Mhm.
with his partner, Charlie.
I think it's funny too, like that as much as he seems to annoy everybody, everyone had him as their lawyer. Like everyone.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. They still were like, hey, we can still
Let's-
use him as
and-
our lawyer, use him for his services.
And what did Paul would call him Kevin as his personal assistant or
Forgot about that. Yeah. He was like kind of terrified of him.
he's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm Kevin, like to his daughter and stuff. No, that's me.
It's just it really is hilarious. There's so many inside jokes and things that they play off of each other. There's Gabby starts to date Derek number 2. There's 2 Dereks. The first Derek is Liz's husband, who is Jefferson Darcy from Married with Children. We'll throw that there. And the second Derek is, I don't know his name, but he's just a handsome man, and
Damon Wayans Jr.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's Junior. It's just Damon Wayans Jr. Okay. Yeah, and we were talking about he is an exact clone of him. Like Aaron and I were kind of like, is that him? Like we both kind of thought it was him, I think. But we
Yeah.
were like, he looks younger.
And I forgot that
What's
I
going
forgot
on?
that Damon Wayans Jr. was a New Girl. When I did the search, I was like, oh,
Oh.
yeah, I think he was.
Oh, he was. I didn't know that.
I think he was he Coach? He was like one of the newer roommates. Like after.
I didn't watch that
Oh, you
show,
didn't?
but like I knew of it, and I yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
that's-
I liked it.
Wow, cool. Yeah, that was a pretty big hit. So yeah, but he's handsome. He looks just like his dad, like just literally a clone. But we see a lot of issues that they all go through. All the characters. Liz is suffering from empty nest.
Mm-hmm.
I love her relationship with her sons and how the youngest son like falls for Alice and she's kind of more protective over Alice and she's like, oh, he's just like a whiny baby. And it's like she's not that like, oh my God, my little boy is like, this or that, or how could you hurt my little boy? Instead she's like, You just gotta get over it. But then when he's like crying, she's like, "Oh, you poor thing." She recognizes how she has to be
The mom.
the mom, and like, but it's her take on parenting and life is just hilarious. And
Yeah.
she's just kind of like born to like be maternal
Mhm.
and but sarcastic and hilarious too at the same time, which is just a great combo. And she likes to tumble rocks. That's like
Yeah.
her hobby. She gives out rocks as
Yeah.
like to special people only.
Mhm. I thought it was
I love
thought it
that.
was funny. One part, I don't know if it was Derek was asking, like, when at the beginning, if she was doing the rocks, if it was meditative or something, or was it? And then she's like, "No, it's not." And then she's like, "Oh, yes, yes, it
I
is."
don't remember if that was her husband or if that was Jimmy.
Was it Jimmy?
It was Jimmy. I think you're right. Yeah.
So sorry, but yeah, so I thought that was funny. It's like, "No, it's not meditative." And then she's like, "Well, yes, it is."
Yeah, she's funny. And I love with Gabby how she calls Jimmy on his, on his stuff, on his when he needs to be called on stuff, his
Mhm.
BS, right? And the thing about it is they all know each other and they can kind of like call out these things, but they may do it with humor, but they also
Mhm.
do it with love.
Yeah.
And I really love that interaction
Yeah.
between all of them, all
Which
the
is even
characters.
like when they have to do it to Gabby, when Gabby is, going to have her mom move in because she can't say no to people. And then so Paul and Jimmy pretty much confront her and say, you're always putting everyone else first. You don't,
Mm,
that's your issue. You always feel like you have to rescue people and help them. And it's
yeah.
okay to say no.
Which is so interesting because you see a lot with the issues that each of the psychotherapists, which is Jimmy, Paul, and Gabby, that a lot of their work in being therapists is probably rooted in a lot of these things
Mhm.
that they've had to deal with personally.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we and so many other therapists can relate to.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people can relate to in their jobs as well with similarities and things, but this is something I think that maybe people may not understand that we understand these probably because we've gone through a lot
Yeah.
of these things
Yeah. And a lot of
or
times.
going through them, right?
And a lot of times people become therapists because there might be something in their background or something that's happened to them that they feel, well, I got help from my therapist. So
Mm.
I'd like to figure out, how to become one. Or I have a dysfunctional family. Let me try to break that cycle, help other people break the cycle. There's a lot of reasons, but it always usually comes from personal reasons within the therapist of I was affected by something. So, like Gabby, there must be some reason that she's never, been able to say no to people, or she feels like she always has to be the helper.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see it in the dynamic with her mom that her mom is kind of like, "Oh, you're going to, move me in," and she's all excited and she kind of is, maybe not considering that Gabby, is a young lady. I mean, like in her 30s and she's kind of at the prime of her life and this may be something that she may not
Yeah.
want to do,
Yeah. And also, you know, the sister was a drug addict for a while. And so I think Gabby was also like, this is your penance to take care of mom until
Mhm.
she, joins the army and then, you know, figures out how to take care of her, the next stages of her life. Gabby's able to tell her friends and everyone, like, I don't want my mom living with me. I don't want, I just got this new
Yeah.
apartment. I'm really excited to start my life. And so then finally she does tell her. And it's like the mom is devastated. And then she has a caretaker who is very judgmental about the whole situation,
Mm.
which isn't helping
Mhm.
Gabby at all either.
Yeah, I didn't like that about the caregiver because you don't know people's circumstances, and it's like this is the first time that Gabby is able to put herself and her needs first because she's kind of it seems like she's always kind of had to help other people, and
Yeah.
that's maybe even how she built her identity and possibly her career,
Mhm.
becoming a therapist.
Yeah, and who knows if it was her responsibility to take care of her sister too when her sister was on drugs or whatever was
Yeah,
happening.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, it actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably was, and then also making sure her mom was okay too at
Mhm.
the same time because her sister couldn't do that.
Right.
And with Paul, we see that he is someone who has kind of been avoidant and kind of shuts people out.
Mhm.
He's a little bit kind of guarded, I would say, and not to say that that's a bad thing, but I
Mhm.
think he kind of learns that like I can let love in. The Dr. Julie
Yeah.
that Gabby has a huge crush on, and I love
Yeah,
that.
and she's always like, "Look at her calves. Look at her. She's
She's like, of course, look at her legs. Legs. She does have very nice legs. Yeah, she's stunning lady. Yeah, but I think that that's kind of something that maybe Paul's always kind of struggled with, right? Is maybe being connected to people, because even in his approach to therapy, Jimmy, he's told Jimmy, like, you're violating these boundaries. And he starts to work with Sean. And then he realizes, like, wait, Sean actually needs a more kind of like, compassionate, kind of closer connection.
Yeah, he needs more hand
That
holding.
Jimmy has.
Yeah, he needs, and
Yeah.
so I like how he's like, we're going to do our therapy as a co-lead it. So it's like almost like two therapists for one. I think that really helped Paul too.
It's an interesting concept. I know that can get actually really, like, technically, I've always been told, I don't know about you. I think we've been told the same thing, because I think I'm thinking of this from Troy and from other places. Troy's where we went to school. But is that having two concurrent therapists is not a good thing. But I think this may be an exception. You know what I mean? I think this is like kind of an exception.
Well, they were
to
doing
rule,
it in the
like,
same time, like almost
shouldn't.
like a group therapy, and then they, so it's like a little different.
Yeah, I don't know how that's looked at, because I don't know that that's ever even been something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never really faced that situation. Have you?
No, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I mean,
I have had. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'd feel really special though if all of a sudden I had, I don't know, special or concerned. I don't know.
I know. Yeah, like if you were the client, like, why do I need two of them?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? But in this instance, it really worked out. I would say it gets confusing in real life. To do that because of insurance justification. Only one person could bill, right? They could not bill unless it was like some higher up code that we don't know about, like with psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff. Because we are at master's level, we're master's level therapists, so maybe we just don't know that. I don't know. That's just
we're not PhDs,
from my perspective. Yeah, they are all PhDs, and I believe Paul a medical.
I think he's.
Is he a psychiatrist?
I think he's a PhD. They never call him Doctor. Well, they call him Dr. Paul, but I don't think he's a. I think he's a PhD.
Okay, they're all PhDs, right? Like okay, so they're all like psychologists. Yeah, but I do think that Paul kind of has like a little bit of a guard. Like, he practices kind of more formally, I would say, than Jimmy. And Jimmy maybe can go over the line in that. And Paul, like, Jimmy was pointing out that Paul's practice was maybe a little bit too formal at times. Maybe not as connected. And I think that's kind of accurate. I think he kind of he realized that. I think at some point. So that was kind of an interesting point for his growth, as a therapist and as a person too, with letting Dr. Julian.
Well, and even also
sexy legs.
starting to let other people in too, because he always kind of held Gabby at a distance, and so then just even letting Gabby in, like, and letting everybody else in, even Alice, like, start doing the sessions, like the pro bono ish sessions with Alice. Paid candy. And I like how he's even like, pay up. You still have to.
He won't accept her missing payment.
The fun sticks or whatever they're called. Cute. The dipsticks.
Oh yeah, the pixie sticks, or I don't know, they're called dipsticks too.
Yeah.
And some, which is funny to me, but I do think it is really cool to see how Dr. Paul and Liz, they come together and they try to help Alice. It's kind of like a community effort of, like, it takes a village to help out, knowing that Jimmy was not in a good place for a while, and Alice still needed help, and she got that care. She sought it out. She was very mature for, like, she didn't really have too much of a, like, rebellion in that. She was just kind of, I don't know. She kind of was just like, yeah, maybe I need this help. She got angry sometimes, but I thought she was a pretty mature character.
And there's probably a reason too. They had it outside at a bench instead of in his office. Maybe it just to meet her, so it's not so stifling, or you don't have to run into your dad.
Yeah, meet her at her level, like, kind of have that space for her. Like, it's her space. Something that she would feel comfortable in, maybe. But yeah, it really is, I think, just a really cool show. It has 3 seasons, right?
I think just 2.
2 seasons. Okay, so, and we're looking forward to the 3rd season, which I don't know when it comes out. Do you, by any chance?
No, I don't.
I seem to not know a lot of stuff. I don't know, but we're sorry. I have this in my brain leading up to it, but then the morning of, when we're like,
you're always like, what?
It just flies away.
You're always like, what? I never saw this before. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what? Because I watched it a while ago. Like, not actually. No, I'm sorry. not a while ago. I watched it a little bit longer ago, and I then tend to go on to another show, and then I forget the details of the show.
Yeah, I just finished it yesterday, so it's still fresh in my head. I win.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That's better to do. Yeah, no, it is. It's a better, like, Erin has definitely a better process
Yeah.
because I
Well, I know, because
don't
I know
remember
if I
things.
do it that way, if I do Tanya's method, I won't even remember that there was a Jimmy. Like I have
Right.
to.
Well, I had to look it up, so I didn't remember the names either. So same. Yeah. But so yeah, we're both. Yeah, we both have our processes,
Yeah.
and Erin's is working. Mine is not really. So we're gonna. I'm gonna try and do that a little better next time.
Okay.
But yeah. So the third season's coming out at some point.
Sometime
I'm
I was just
excited
trying
for
to
it.
Google that because Googling is so good for a podcast. But
Everybody does it. Who cares? Whatever.
but I'm not. I don't see when it's coming out. So
Maybe it hasn't been announced yet or something. But yeah, so it really has, it hits on so many themes of just not only directly therapy and like obviously some violations and ethical boundaries that were like, ugh, but it's all in good fun because it's on TV. It is not real
Right,
life. We would
right.
not do these things. We're not condoning
Yeah.
them. You all know that.
oh, it says
But it also appears
it says 20.
Sorry.
It says 2025. So sometime this year.
Ooh, so sometime this year. Okay. I mean, it could be December, but still, whatever. I'm still rooting for it. It's within the year.
Yeah.
That's excellent. But yeah, I think it really peers into the lives of psychotherapists and the people around them
Mhm.
and different themes that can pop up. And the characters are amazing. The
Yeah.
humor's great. Check
Yeah.
it out, really.
And also we didn't even talk about the drunk driver Lewis too. I thought that was, I don't know, I thought it was interesting that they added him as a character and how Brian and Alice became friends with him for a little bit, and then they tried to almost force Jimmy to forgive him or become his friend. But then
He's the one that killed Alice's mother and
Mm,
Jimmy's
yeah.
wife in the drunk driving accident. Yeah.
And then at the end, Jimmy is the one who is there for Lewis. So it's it's interesting. I mean, I don't think they're going to become best friends, but I think maybe this will help Lewis heal.
And Jimmy.
Yeah.
I think it'll help Jimmy heal to kind of just say, okay, I can move past that. I can see this person like Lewis was suffering. He really was like punishing himself. He obviously like thought about this, every day of his life. And Alice kind of, is not wanting to obviously talk to him, but after a while she befriends him and actually finds out he's a nice person, and along with Brian as well. And it's very healing for her.
Yeah.
And I think she wants that for her dad. And he's like, I can't, basically he can't do it in the same way, maybe not to the same degree, but I think there is some solace found for both of them, Lewis and Jimmy, at the end in that scene. That is really, really like a touching scene. It really it hits you. It hits you in the heart. But I know we're giving away a lot of it, but hopefully you've watched it or you're just interested in watching it. You may not remember all these points that we're babbling about, but it's something to look into. So I think that sums it up pretty nicely. Is there anything else you want to add to
I don't
it?
think so. I mean, I really liked it, and I'm glad I gave it another shot because I did only watch originally, like when it first came out, like whenever it first came out, like months ago or years ago or whatever it did. I don't know. Who knows? But
I think it was 2023, but don't quote me.
Okay, I will not quote you.
It's not smart to quote me on anything.
People's names, dates, or anything like that. Don't ask Tanya.
But anything factual. Don't do that. Yeah.
But I did try it at first, and I only lasted maybe 15 minutes of the first episode. I was like, what the heck is this stupidness? So then when we're like, we're going to do this for the show, I was like, all right, let me try again. And then I was like, okay, I'm looking at it in fresh eyes. And still the first two or three episodes, I was like, all right, it's going to take me a little bit. But then I was like, whew, then I was hooked, and it was really good.
I agree. I actually had a similar process. I kept pushing through it, and that's why I brought it up. I had brought it up to Erin, like kind of encouraging, like it is good, because I initially the first, I think 2 to 3 episodes, kind of the same as you. I was like, oh, this just seems like an unrealistic portrayal of therapy, and it just seems like it's talking about all this crap, and I don't want to hear this. I hear this every day, but then you start to see like, the humor involved in it, and you start to see that they're trying to present the messiness of it, and it really just, all the characters hook you in, the humor, and it really works.
And it really is it also shows you too that grief isn't just an individual thing. It affects so many people. Like it affects people who may not have even known her, but then also everyone who knew her and loved her and everyone who loves Jimmy too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and that grief is not linear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not something that happens in a particular stage, the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, right? And that's not supposed to be linear, but
Yeah.
it happens in different events. It happens at different times. Sometimes we don't, we may act differently than what most people think at first because the emotions haven't come up.
Mhm.
And it may happen in little ways. You may go back a little bit. You may go forward even more. It's a process and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And we definitely can see that in
Mhm.
the characters in this.
Something else I wanted to mention, just when Jimmy and Lewis were on the bench and Jimmy, after they're like talking about the people pretending like what their life is like or whatever, he then goes to him. He's like, I think he said like this year really sucked or it's been a really bad year or something. And then he's like, yeah. And then he's like, yeah. So they both are like, yeah, they both had these super traumatic things happen that they were connected and their lives both really changed in a negative way. And I thought that was pretty poignant to have them say that and just the reaction.
For sure. Yeah, that is such it really is a powerful scene and it really kind of ties everything together. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's loaded with goodies.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mhm.
And yeah, try to work past the third episode. We promised. It ties together.
Yeah.
We feel you. It is kind of a slow burn.
Yeah.
Sort
It's
of,
like
to
the
kinda get there.
first 20 pages of a book. Just try to
Yeah.
make it.
Push through because it really is worth it. It is. And the characters are great.
Yeah.
So I have the fun question.
Okay.
Fun question.
All right.
Okay. So if you were to go to that office where they work at for therapy, who would you choose for a therapist?
Oh, so if I was a patient, a client.
Yes.
And
I was gonna ask as a therapist, who do you identify with? But I was like, let's try this. Let's see
okay,
what
so
who you'd-
if I saw their profiles on Psychology Today and these are the only 3 therapists I was able to see, I would probably pick Jimmy.
Jimmy. Okay.
Even though I've never had I think I've only had like one male therapist, but I think Jimmy's goofy attitude, I'm sure he would have something silly written or something that provocative on his profile that you're like, oh, okay, he's kind of thinks outside the box or something. And
Yeah, he definitely does.
and like Paul's knowledge would really interest me. Like when I read his profile or whatever, and Gabby would probably have some really fun quote or something on it. And she'd probably look really pretty and she'd probably have a nice little video introducing herself. But
She sure would.
I would probably be drawn to her, but I think I would pick Jimmy just because I feel like he would probably make me laugh.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. And then also he's out of that phase, but he would really guide you towards, solving things or working through those issues. He would certainly do that. I think all 3 of them would do that, wonderfully.
Who would be your choice?
I think I would choose Gabby. I think I would be because she is someone I just feel the humanity from her, and not that I don't from Paul and Jimmy, but there's just something, and it may just be because I tend to connect more with female providers too, but I just think she has that kind of, like, she would call me on my crap, but she would do it in a very gentle and loving and probably hilarious way. And I just think that that's great.
Yeah.
I would just love that. I would love her. I love her office. I love how she's just kind of accommodating to the person that's there. Like she kind of like meets them, where they're at. And I just think I feel like I could develop a good rapport with her, and I think that would be really fun. And I would just love to see her outfits.
Yeah,
I just would.
I know. I want to start dressing
just on that side.
on that aspect. I wish I had. Maybe I'll just start dressing like her. I mean, I don't
think I make enough.
I don't know. Go to TJ Maxx or something. I don't know.
That's true. They do. Oh my God. I just went yesterday.
Yeah,
and they do have some really cool
really
stuff.
cool,
Yeah.
cute dresses from TJ Maxx the other day. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Ooh,
But yeah, just do that.
nice.
You don't have to go to some high end place.
You're right. And I think her character is probably like a thrifter and like would find cool, like really nice finds too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I mean, she
true.
just has good
Yeah.
shoes that she wears with it. Like her shoes are pretty
Oh,
stylish.
yeah.
They're fun
Oh,
sneakers.
yeah, she looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's that's our fun question that we're ending with. Let us
That's
know
how
who would you choose as a therapist.
That's how we end up going, like we're kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah, and then we're like, well, okay, now to end it. Yeah, so our transitions are not the best. So we try. Well, my transitions, I should say. Erin, I think you do a good job with it, but mine are a little shaky. So we try to just move through that, right? It's all process therapy. I don't know. I'm trying to just tie it back there. If you can check out Shrinking, we don't have any tie to this. We just think this is amazing and it has some mental health themes. It's on Apple TV. And it has 2 seasons. We don't know when the 3rd one is coming out sometime in 2025. But,
could already be out. No, just kidding. It's not.
No, I checked. That I know. That I can fact check because I definitely checked for that just yesterday. But yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this all over chitty chat about Shrinking, and that maybe you learned something, or you're gonna go check it out, or have already checked out Shrinking. But let us know what you think, what therapist you would choose if you want, or just what your thoughts are, anything that we missed. Don't forget to follow us on our socials. You know them at Wicked Psychotherapists on Facebook and The Wicked Psychotherapists.
And we are now on YouTube. Look up Wicked Psychotherapists. Yes. So I posted one video, and also our podcast is now linked to YouTube. So this is a new thing as of a couple days ago. So
that is important to remember. Erin has been working very hard on that. She has been doing a great job with that. So yes, good point. Yeah, so check that out. You can see us if you want to see my goofy face. And
if you want to see me sleep, I always seem to have my eyes closed in all the videos. So I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me.
We have some quirks.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some quirks, but we're doing it. We're doing it. We're getting through it. Okay. But yeah, so thanks for listening, and don't forget, stay wicked
and keep your mind well. All right, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.